The origin. You are a boy. That is all you are right now. No title. No name that history will remember. Just a boy, standing on wet sand at the edge of a village so old, it doesn't have a word for old yet. The fire behind you smells like pine resin and dried fish. Somewhere, a woman is singing. You don't know it yet, but that is the last song you will ever hear. That doesn't carry the weight of what comes next, because then the sky goes wrong. It doesn't darken or anything like that. It simply opens. A shape hangs where the moon should be, but it isn't a moon. It has no light to give. It drinks the light around it instead, pulling the stars inward like threads unraveling from a cloth. Your people have no word for it. You will spend 10,000 years trying to invent one, but the closest you ever get is this. The black moon howls, and when it howls, something dissolves. Specifically, the hunter to your left this time, but it doesn't happen in a violent way. That's the part that stays with you for the rest of eternity, how gentle it is. 1 second, he is a man with rough hands and a bone necklace. The next, he is a slow spill of black ink running between your feet and into the sea. 4 seconds. That's all it takes. For some reason, you don't scream like a little girl. You just look, and then you feel someone doing the same. That weird-ass old man is already watching you. He is sitting on a flat stone at the edge of the village, like he has been sitting there since before the village existed, which you will later realize he has. His eyes are the color of the sky just before it goes wrong. And in his hands, he holds something you cannot name. It's not an object exactly, more like a position, a necessary tension. The space between two things that must never touch. He calls it the counterbalance. He presses it into your hands, and then he exhales, one long, final breath, and turns to pale dust that the wind takes in 4 directions. You close your hands, then you feel it. The weight of everything that has ever tried to end. That's when you start walking. And you don't stop for 250,000 years. The long road to a name. You learn in stages what you are, and the answer is disturbing. Because for some reason, you're now immortal. But not in a fun sense. You're still cut by swords, burned by fire. And once in a century, you've stopped bothering to name. Something with too many limbs tears you open from shoulder to hip in a mountain pass in the dark. You watch your own blood pool on the stone, and then 4 seconds later, you don't. It's 4 seconds, every time, like a law of physics that exists only for you. Civilizations rise around you like bread dough. You watch them with the detached interest of someone who already knows how the recipe ends. You have seen every archetype 100 times. The ambitious general, the visionary king, the philosopher who almost figures it out, and the artist who gets closer to the truth than anyone should be allowed to. You remember their faces the way other people remember weather. Vividly at first, then as a general impression, and then as a feeling you can't quite source. You keep your hands a few inches apart, not from habit, but from necessity. Because the counterbalance is not a weapon, it is a lock, and you are the door, the founding. By the time the modern world arrives, you've already seen 3 versions of it collapse. You know what's coming. The world is filling up. With people, yes, but more importantly, with things that should not be. The Black Moon's influence bleeds through the edges of reality like ink through wet paper. Anomalies, deviations, objects that remember things that haven't happened yet, doors that open into rooms that don't fit inside the buildings that contain them. A child in Marseille who makes clocks run backward just by crying. A grandfather clock in Dorset that shows the exact time of your death, except the hands never move. You cannot fight this alone. You have tried. For a very long time, you tried. So you gather 13 people, the most ruthless, brilliant, quietly terrified human beings alive. You sit them in a room, and you say the words that will echo for as long as there are people left to remember them. Mankind must not go back to hiding in fear. We existed before our knowledge of the things in the dark. We existed before others came to catalog them. Mankind will exist long after. We are the reason why. We secure, we contain, we protect. They stare at you when you finish. Not with inspiration, but with the particular expression of people who have just realized they are in a room with something ancient pretending to be a man in a suit. They sign anyway. Because the alternative is the Black Moon, and they've all seen what the Black Moon does to the things it touches. From them, the O5 Council is born. You call the organization the Foundation. You give yourself a title so vague, it functions like a locked door. The Administrator. You do not give yourself a name. Names are for people who expect to be remembered as individuals. You are a role. a function, and a counterweight on the scale between everything and nothing. The Golden Age. There's a version of your life that looks almost glamorous. Well, if you squint, you wear suits because you have learned that human beings extend an extraordinary amount of trust to a well-tailored jacket. You drink 50-year-old scotch because you've had 250,000 years to develop preferences, and you've earned at least one of them. You keep company with heads of state, generals, even industrialists. You tell them the shape of the world without telling them why you know it. You are sitting across from Eisenhower in the Oval Office, 1953. He's explaining the situation at Groom Lake in the careful, vague language of a man who thinks he might be in trouble. The room smells overwhelmingly of stale pipe tobacco. You nod at appropriate intervals and try not to think about how many of these conversations you've had. How many rooms, how many powerful men sweating through their shirts trying to explain to you that something has gone wrong, that something shouldn't exist, or that they don't know what to do with it. You always know what to do with it. That's the whole point. Back at Foundation headquarters, 2 miles underground, in a location that does not appear on any map produced by any nation, 13 of the most dangerous people on Earth straighten their posture when you walk into the room. Not from respect exactly, but more from the specific animal instinct of creatures who have correctly identified something that is older and stranger and more patient than they are. They are afraid of you. You find this reasonable because you are the only one who knows what SCP-001 actually is. I mean, you wrote the file yourself, and then you locked it. The modern burden. The black moon is howling louder. You can feel it the way you've always felt it, not with your ears, but in the counterbalance, a frequency, a pull, like something enormous leaning against a door from the other side. For most of your existence, the pressure was constant but manageable, just background noise, the kind of sound you learned to sleep through. But now, you're not sleeping through it anymore. The Foundation's archives have swelled to a size that would take a human being several lifetimes to read. Thousands of anomalies, thousands of files. You have read every one. You are, after all, not the author. You are the editor. You have watched reports rise from incident log to Euclid to Cater. You have watched researchers lose their minds trying to write clinical language about things that should not exist. You have countersigned termination orders for entities that looked at you with something that might have been recognition. The O5 Council has been replaced 17 times since the founding. Each generation of 13 thinks they understand the shape of things. Each generation, you let them believe it. It's kinder that way. The truth, that the entire Foundation is a bandage on a wound the size of history, is not information that improves anyone's performance. And then there's the assassin. He finds you in your office one evening, quite professional, very patient, and almost certainly hired by someone on the council who has stopped being afraid of you and started being afraid of what you know. When he stabs you, you barely glance at it. 4 seconds pass. You pour 2 glasses of scotch. You slide one across the desk. Sit down, you tell the assassin. We should discuss who sent you. The eternal loop. Here is what no one tells you about being the counterbalance. It is not a heroic role. Heroes have arcs, heroes resolve, and heroes get to finish. You are not the protagonist of this story. You are the reason the story keeps going. You are the 4 seconds that stand between a man and a pool of black ink. Not the victory, not the ending, just the continuation. The stubborn, infinite insistence that there will be a tomorrow to secure, a threat to contain, and a species worth protecting. You sit in your office 2 miles underground. The archives hum around you. Somewhere above, 13 frightened geniuses are making decisions that will define what humanity knows about the shape of reality. Somewhere above that, 8 billion people are going about their lives without the faintest idea that the reason they can do so, the reason the sky is a sky and not something else, the reason the moon gives light instead of drinking it, is a function, a role. A boy from a prehistoric shore who picked up a weight and never put it down. Your hands rest on the desk, a few inches apart, always. You reach for the scotch. Outside, the black moon shifts, and you feel it in your palms. All right, folks, that was a small glimpse in the life of the absolute GOAT of the SCP Foundation. See you in the next one.